everybody out there in YouTube. We are the Middle Age Guys, and we are continuing on with our episodic reviews of everything Young Justice. This particular video is going to be covering Season 1, Episode number 22, which is entitled Agendas, and it originally aired on March 24th, 2012. Let's get all the introductions out of the way. I'm the Reverend.
The theme here.
And I'm Grey Mouse 1.
This particular episode, like said, originally aired out in March 24th, 2012. It is almost 6 years old. Because of that, there's not going to be any sort of spoiler warnings on any of this. But just like with all of our reviews, we're going to cover 3 talking points. First one being what we liked about the episode. The second one being what we didn't like, or if there were any details that we would want to change, what we would change. And then the third one always being if we happen to pick something up during this particular episode that sets up a future episode or storyline arc coming down the pipe. All right. Let me go ahead and get the quick synopsis out of the way. This particular episode takes place on Thanksgiving within the timeline of Young Justice. It opens up with Wally West, Zatanna, Miss Martian, and Superboy in the kitchen getting ready to go ahead and prepare Thanksgiving dinner. Turns out that, not only are the folks at the cave busy, but the folks up in the Watchtower are also busy because it looks like the Justice League doesn't get Thanksgiving off because they are convening to go ahead and have a meeting to decide who amongst all of the heroes that they've ran into over the last year are going to be inducted into the Justice League. During that time, the story keeps on shifting back and forth between what's going on in the Watchtower and also what's going on Earth. Turns out Superboy is contacted by Lex Luthor simply because since he's the only person on Earth who could hear a certain frequency that was being broadcasted out with Superman being off-world at the Watchtower, he's contacted by Lex Luthor and he's told that, hey, look, you're not the only clone that's there in Project Cadmus, in the Cadmus Labs, that was a clone of Superman. So he's tipped off. He goes over to the Cadmus Labs. He sees that things have changed a bit since the last time they were there. The Genomorphs are actually a little bit more integrated with some of the staff, doing a few more things. But he also finds out that a lot of the Genomorphs have ended up missing. They just seem to be disappearing. Turns out that underneath the Cadmus Lab is a huge Genomorph city that Double X and a lot of the Genomorphs have went ahead and gone out of their way to build. And during the exploration of the old Cadmus Lab, Superboy also finds out, oh, hey, look, lo and behold, there is another clone of Superman called Project Match, okay?
It's okay. You're free now.
Just like himself, knowing what it's like to be in a pod, he says that he wants to go ahead and free the clone. He goes ahead and he frees the clone. Turns out the clone is like him when he was initially released out to an even more uncontrollable degree. The Match clone is pretty much completely feral, and during a fight with the Project Match, Superboy gets himself knocked out, and when he's coming to, he finds himself back in his original pod inside of the solar suit, which sends him completely batty for a second. He loses his crap and he busts out of the pod.
No!
It's all right.
It's not all right. You put me in a pod.
He completely accuses Guardian and Dr. Spencer that they're there still conducting cloning experiments on Kryptonians and stuff like that. And after being convinced that no, that's not the case, he finds out that, hey, look, Double X has taken Project Match down into Genome City, along with all the other missing genomes. All right. Before he actually finds that out, he is given a gift from Lex Luthor, which is a set of shields, where Luthor goes ahead and he explains to him that, hey, unlike Project Match, you're only half Kryptonian. There are portions of your DNA which is filled in with human DNA, and that with these shields here, you can go ahead and you can block the human DNA, and you would have access to all of your Kryptonian abilities, heat ray vision, flight, and everything else.
Consider these a gift. I call them shields.
Stick one on your arm, and it'll suppress your human DNA for about an hour, allowing your Kryptonian powers to bloom.
You will be as powerful as Match, as Superman.
I don't want anything from you.
Keep them anyway. You never know.
Right? So, upon the time that Superboy finds Project Match the second time, en route to getting his butt kicked, he decides to go ahead and pop on with the shields. Turns out that, yes, everything that Lex Luthor said about the shields was completely true, and he, promptly defeats Match, sends him back into a pod, puts him back on ice. All right? During this whole time, up in the Watchtower, we see that the Justice League is pretty much asking, okay, so who do we go ahead and add to our roster? They go ahead and they name candidates like, let's see here, like Icon, Rocket, Guy Gardner, Atom, Blue Devil, Red Arrow, and Plastic Man. All of them which bring about their own sets of critique, and also brings about a lot of internal critique of particular members that are actually part of the Justice League at the time. There's a huge debate about whether or not Captain Marvel should be, present within them for the fact that he never told them that he was just a 10-year-old kid. But it turns out at the end of the episode, they go ahead and they make their decisions on who they're going to go ahead and include into the expanded Justice League, and that's pretty much where everything leaves off, with Batman telling all of them, hey, look, your vote was going to influence not only how we continue forward, but it's also going to influence, how the world sees the Justice League and whether or not they continue coming back to us to help them out with all of the world's crises. All right, and that's pretty much where the episode ends off. Oh, well, actually, at the very end of the episode, we find out that when Superboy goes ahead and he confronts Lex Luthor as far as, okay, so who's the other half of my DNA? He finds out that Lex Luthor himself, he's the human half of his DNA, and that even though he would love to go ahead and press Lex Luthor for other things and demand other things of it, he finds out that Lex Luthor has somehow embedded some sort of kill switch command word that completely leaves him totally, I don't know how you say, incapacitated for an unmeasurable amount of time, simply by telling him the phrase "Red Sun" in his voice. And yeah, that's actually where everything leads off. Okay, did I miss anything on that one? I don't think I did. All right. So that all aside, with the synopsis out of the way, what in this particular episode did you guys like? Floor is open.
Gray Mouse, go ahead, man.
Huh?
Yeah, you go first.
Wow, that's a first. I don't even know what you kind of caught me off guard. To be honest with you, I think what stood out the most to me about this episode was that we actually saw the politics of the Justice League.
Yeah,
and how I guess how it works in between. I mean, there's still, it seems to me like they're making the rules as they go. But it was still nice to see, the politics of the Justice League.
Was there anything else you want to throw on that pile before we jumped in? Okay, because I have a feeling that a lot of what we like is probably going to hinge on that. But since that's out of the way, what about you, Theme? What did you like?
The fact that it was an open conversation in that watchtower. It wasn't just, okay, the highest members had all to say. No, there were interesting, very interesting conversations in this tower. From Green Arrow to, Superman. Everybody that spoke either had an opinion, had something valid to say, or something worthwhile to contribute as far as the candidates that they were going to allow or not allow in the league, except for 2 Green Lanterns that shut down Guy Gardner with one word.
Said twice.
Said twice.
Still, we could always use more raw power. And Earth has a 3rd Green Lantern, Guy Gardner.
No.
But we could really...
No.
Okay. Now, the Superboy, going back to Cadmus, Lex Luthor type of thing, that added a lot to Superboy. And I really like how they explained some of Superboy's quote-unquote backstory with Cadmus, him having a human donor, he's part human, discovering his quote-unquote roots, as it were. But those are the whole episode covered all of that as far as me liking it as a whole. So, Reverend, what about you?
With this particular one, I've said this multiple times in other reviews that we've done, character interaction will get me almost every time, all right? If you think about the amount of action that they actually have in this particular episode over the 22 and a half minutes that it runs, there's maybe like 4 minutes of action sequences, and that's it, all right? Other than that, really, it's a lot of people.
Characters.
Yeah, I mean, and really, other than that, there's a lot of people, just standing around or sitting around in rooms in circles talking to each other, all right? Which, a little bit of an insight on the inner workings and inner politics of the Justice League and everything else. Some of the character interaction, the way that they put things forward, were really, really insightful and also entertaining at the same time. The fact that Superman originally thought that Captain Marvel was a Kryptonian at one time, all right, and that
got called out on it for Icon.
Yeah, and that he wants to go ahead and include Icon because he suspects that he may be Kryptonian, right?
Well, actually, Green Arrow put him on the spot for that.
Yeah, so I mean, there's quite a few things, which was great because, like you guys said, it showed that everybody who was sitting there in the council, as far as the Justice League, everybody had a say in everything else. I mean, even Green Arrow, he has no superpowers. He's pretty much a counterpart, type character to Batman and all of that. But he was right there raising his voice with one of the core 3, the Trinity members, right there, naming his candidates, which gives the whole situation quite a bit of depth and everything else. The interchanges that they had back and forth with, still keeping Captain Marvel in, the whole elephant in the room, finding out the fact that he was a 10-year-old kid and all of that was awesome.
That was one of the highlights of the episode.
Yeah.
Even Captain Marvel had raised his voice about Dr. Fate in the league.
Yeah, and that was
cool too.
Yeah, so there was definitely a lot of stuff that was going on here. And then the other thing that I absolutely loved about this is, but this we'll probably touch a little bit more on point number 3, is that there was a lot of wrap up. There was a lot of loose ends and a lot of like free floating radicals that were out there in the whole series that they just kind of cleanly brought together. They're like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna bring this together so people still realize that all of this stuff is still here, which I absolutely enjoyed. All right, was there anything we want to go ahead and throw on that before we step on to number 2?
No,
okay.
Because we'll be here all night.
Yeah, and we'll probably be quoting a lot of things from those particular conversations. All right, but to avoid that, let's go ahead and continue on to our second point. Our second point is always, what in this particular episode did you not like, or was there any sort of details that you would like to change if you had a choice?
Gray Mouse, you want to go first this time, or should I?
Go ahead.
So, okay, this was basically thrown out there, wide open in front of Superboy. You're telling me that you didn't question on how Lex Luthor know that Superman was off-world? You wait a minute. He told you that this man was off-world. How the fuck would he know that? So, if he knows where he is, he may know where you are. So I didn't understand why he didn't fucking pick up on that from the beginning. That's the main thing that I didn't like. And I didn't like there were fucking cameras everywhere that Lex Luthor could take a look at inside of fucking Katniss to see everything that was going on. I did not like that either. That was kind of quizzical to me, but fuck it, okay? It doesn't take anything away from the episode, but yeah, those are two things. Gray Mouse, what about you?
I don't really have anything that I don't like about this episode.
Okay, all right. With mine, well, the camera part, remember, he is the brand new head of Cadmus, all right? The guy taking care of everything. So that when everything was all said and done, he's the guy who's in charge of all of that, okay? But the thing is that it turns out he was the guy who's in charge of Cadmus from the get-go, as was explained in the episode. You know, when it came down to Project Match and everything, he was the guy who started that.
But that makes sense of, him not knowing where he was.
True.
He was right next to Project KR if you looked at it.
Yeah. True. But there was other things that were going on as far as the Double X and the genomes messing with things.
I get that.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
still.
But that aside, the one thing that kind of bugged me in this, and the thing is that we haven't had to sit there and complain about it for a while, is angsty parent missing emo Superboy. All right, he made an appearance again in this particular episode. All right, yeah, the whole thing with Miss Martian and Zatanna getting Thanksgiving dinner ready and all of that, and Zatanna having her little emotional breakdown and everything in the middle of that, and first thing out of Superboy's mouth was, "At least you knew your dad." And I was like, "Oh, yeah," and it was just like, is this how it's gonna go, right? And then he goes ahead and he plays it off and everything else, as far as him going ahead and taking Wolf out for a walk and all of that. But yeah, again,
he found out who one of his fathers was in this episode.
Yeah, and by the end of this episode, that really didn't help his state of mind.
No.
All right. But yeah, like I said, we haven't had to worry about that particular version of Superboy showing up, but he showed up in this particular episode. All right. With that all the way, okay. Yeah, the episode was really tight. This particular episode is a real big setup episode and a real big wrap-up episode. Let's go ahead and continue on to our third point. What did you notice within the episode that acts as a setup or a reference point for something that's coming into the future?
The shields. Superman's gift. Lex Luthor's gift to Superboy.
The super steroids?
That's one. What, Kryptonianoids?
Yeah. The Kryptonian growth hormone?
Kryptonian growth hormone. Wow. Yeah, but that was just one of the things.
What about you, Gray Mouse? Was there anything that you noticed in the episode that acts as a setup or a wrap up to anything that happened during the season?
The new Justice League inductees.
Go ahead. Elaborate.
Go ahead, man.
Well, he says he has nothing against the episode as a whole.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course, the new Justice League inductees, or at least the candidates that they brought up, they were all characters that, initially went ahead and they kind of reared their heads and showed up during the Revelations episode, which is a great thing about that particular episode. That happened all the way back in, episode number 14. That's like 7 episodes ago. So this one is a really clean wrap-up to all of those particular characters, all right? They didn't just show up for a reason. Guess what? They're planting seeds for stuff that's happening now. The other thing that I think really kind of was really revelatory and everything else was the fact that, not just the Shields, but Lex Luthor going out of his way and saying, hey, look, Superboy, I'm your daddy. The whole Red Sun and everything else, that really kind of sets up. It's like, all right, so now we have Miss Martian. She's got something hanging over her head from one of the members of the Light. Now we have Superboy. He's got something hanging over his head from another member of the Light. This is something that's going to continue throughout the at least this particular season, and it's going to be pretty relevant, especially going into the end, or at least the last 2 episodes. Was there anything else that we wanted to go ahead and throw on that? Or anything else that we wanted to go ahead and mention about episode number 22?
No, not as far as that.
Okay.
The Justice League Trinity, that's going to end up playing a major role, those 3 characters in particular. Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman. But I do like some of the offhand comments of Wonder Woman throughout the episode as well. It sows seeds for future episodes as well.
Yeah,
with wanting to bring more women onto the Justice League or into the Justice League.
Yep. Yeah.
A lot of rejection was done by Aquaman.
Yeah.
And Red Tornado's dialogue was pretty interesting, and he's an android.
Yeah. Because the thing is that when it comes to certain aspects of like age and maturity and stuff like that, it's not anything that he would have to deal with as a sentient robot.
One thing too, you forgot about Artemis. So there's something being held over Artemis's head as well. You got Artemis, you got Superboy now, and you got Miss Martian. So those are going to be, although Artemis was not even in this episode, but I'm just saying, I just wanted to add that. So there's 3 main characters from the Young Justice team that the Light has over their heads in some form or fashion. So that's definitely going to, as we move towards the end of the season, that's definitely going to come as a major plot or major story moving forward.
Yeah, and the thing is that even coming from the Brandon Bietti's and Greg Weisman's mouth, during commentary, DVD commentary about like for the first season and everything else, one of the things that they said about when they were making the first season was that there was going to be this underlying theme of secret identities, everybody trying to keep their lives separate and everything. But a lot of that stuff kind of tends to not only deteriorate, but kind of fall away when you're in a situation where it's like, oh, hey, look, every time I see these guys, not only is it really, really, really fun, but we're all risking our lives and we may not come back from what the fuck we're doing, So that sort of thing, those sort of, social and familiar type of barriers, they tend to deteriorate after a while, which is something that we're definitely going to see coming up to the end of this particular season. And with, just like 4 more episodes to go, we're going to see that rather quick.
What's very interesting, too, is that it seems like as the story goes further in season 1, I know I'm making this longer than it needs to be, but as the episodes go further and further, and if you've watched them up until this point, certain episodes had impact, and you could still see that impact in the characters from that episode. For an example, like you always say, the failsafe, and also what was the episode after that?
Disordered.
That really screwed up a lot of characters, and people are still thinking about that, especially Superboy. You know, there's still things that's going on behind the scenes that really didn't get a finish to it per se. So I really do like the way that they set this up. It seems like they started at the beginning, episode 1, and they wrote everything out from the word go to have this much continuity within all the whole season in each episode, I feel.
Yep. They definitely had a plan, which is something in stark contrast that I wish Warner Brothers would consider for their actual live action universe. But that's a whole other set of videos altogether. All right.
I think we already did that, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we did too. All right.
Yeah.
But that's another video altogether. All right. Let's go ahead and wrap this up like we normally do. On a scale of yay, nay, or meh, what is your thoughts on this particular episode, guys? Floor is open.
There is nothing that can take away from this episode from it being a yay. Absolutely nothing. I'm sorry. Even with the 2 gripes I had with it earlier, there's no the conversations alone. Fuck that. I'm not going to go into it right now. Gray Mouse, what about you?
I give it a yay also. I mean, the storytelling, the comedy within the storytelling, and the foreshadowing of the last couple episodes of the season was just on point. And there's nothing else to say. This is definitely a yay for me.
Yeah, this one's a yay for me. No surprise on this particular one. Yays all around. Like I've said multiple times in a lot of these reviews, character interaction, good character interaction, even though it's just it looks like a bunch of schmoes or talking heads just sitting in around a table, having conversation back and forth. As long as the conversation is something that's kind of insightful and it's compelling, a lot of times that will entertain me a lot more than your stock action scene or anything else like that. Not that any of the efforts that they've done so far within this series has been just a stock effort. Even the Secrets episode is as forgetful as that is. The actual action sequences that happen within it are rather memorable. All right. But yeah, with this particular one, you get a peek behind the curtain when it comes to the Justice League. No, they don't get holidays off. And yes, they go ahead and it looks like they like a lot of people, they leave a lot of their, most important decisions to the end of the year. Or the holiday time. So when it comes to this, yeah, it's a yay for me. A lot of stuff going on with this particular episode. Huge setup, especially going into the end of the first season. So it's definitely one of my favorite episodes. And if you would have asked me this before we started the reviews of all the episodes and everything else, the Agendas episode, this is actually the very first episode where I learned the actual episode name and memorized it out of all of the ones that happened. In fact, I believe this is the one that got me watching Young Justice.
I believe I introduced you to this show by this episode because I was already watching it, but when I saw this episode, I was like, no, I have to actually share this.
Yeah.
And I was like, you need to watch this one because this one had a lot to it, a lot of comedy, the interesting conversation about Batman, and how Batman referred to Robin.
Yeah.
Robin needed to help bring the men who murdered his family to justice.
So he could turn out like you?
So that he wouldn't.
Yeah.
That was the most meaningful explanation on why Robin actually exists as a crime fighter.
Yep.
I mean, if you really think about it, that made a ton of sense. take nothing away from that.
Yeah.
And,
Said,
and Guy Gardner getting told no, that was
rather in stark contrast to how Guy Gardner was referenced in the Green Lantern animated series. But I digress. All right. I think.
I mean, I'm still going to keep going here because how Dr. Fate said that Kid Flash and Aqualad were ready. And what about Satana?
No. Absolutely not.
That sounds a little bit. Oh, that sounds like it was overprotective. Like, dang. I mean, they let it all hang loose.
Yeah.
As far as saying, no or disagreeing or whatever. And I just like that open conversation. It was pretty interesting. Oh, and then there's Guardian. You look a lot like Red Arrow.
One thing I like too was Batman's comment about size don't matter.
It's the size that makes you. It's the size that makes him useful. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, about the atom.
Yeah.
Which was very interesting. But man, it's just. And then they discuss when it comes to discussion of the Superboy. You saw Superman on how he reacted to that. He didn't say a word, but you saw his body language. He still hasn't accepted that motherfucker existing.
Yep.
Wrap us up, Reverend. Wrap us up.
Yeah, because we're going to start laundry listing and just quoting things at this rate.
Wrap us up.
Go watch this episode, please. For all of you that may be watching this video at this point, go watch this episode in particular.
Yeah. Okay. And if you already have and you're still with us at this point, thank you very much, by the way. You can let us know what you thought of the episode by leaving a comment below. You can let us know what you thought about our review by also leaving a comment below. Especially if we missed something or if we overlooked something. We always appreciate the comments. While you're at it, if you feel we're worth it, go ahead and mash on that like button. If you go ahead and you press the unlike button, I'll understand. But I'd rather you do the opposite. And if you really appreciate what we're doing here, you like to stick around, you want to see whenever we go ahead and we drop out new videos or whatnot, I do advise you to go ahead and subscribe to our channels and turn on those notifications, and you'll know whenever we go ahead and we drop out a new video on any of our channels. All right. With that, all of our bullshit, or actually our review on Young Justice Season 1, episode number 22, entitled Agendas, ends right here. I'm the Reverend.
The Theme here.
And I'm Grey Mouse 1.
All forms of entertainment has the right to exist, even if you don't like it. Credits.